I want to begin this morning with a poem by Dr. James Mayfield. It's entitled The Face of Faith, from his book Poems for Personal Transformation. It is the face of faith I see in every flower, every tree. Although their shroud is winter snow, calm, serene, their hearts beat slow. What faith, what dreams help them bear the sunless days with patience rare. I ask a rose, are you alive? The winter's long, can you survive? The rose spoke softly in my ear, I live and know and have no fear. You've asked my secret, I'll confide. God with me lives deep inside. This morning, this Easter morning, we're looking at the face of faith, but we're giving it a different name. We're going to call it the power of trust. More specifically, the power of trust to transform. The power of trust to transform that which seems to be hopeless into something filled with hope. The power of trust to transform that which seems to be so dark into that which is filled with light. The power to trust, or of trust, to transform that which seems dead into something quite vibrant and alive. Trust what, you might ask? Trust the law? Trust God? Yes and yes. But this morning, this Easter morning, I want us to explore a very specific kind of trust. Trust in the resurrection principle. Every flower and every tree trusts this principle implicitly. If the principle that says even though something appears to die, it does not really. It is the seeming death that allows something more wonderful to come forth. I see this every year with my fruit trees as they lose everything and then the blossoms come out and it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. And then the leaves. It's you can see this in nature, and I think that's why they tell people to go and spend time in nature, because it reminds us that this is what's true in the natural cycle is true in the human cycle as well. So the last verse of the poem tells it all, and here it is again. The rose spoke softly in my ear, I live and know and have no fear. You've asked my secret, I'll confide. God with me lives deep inside. The master teacher Jesus certainly trusted the resurrection principle. Clearly, he trusted the idea that there would be a resurrection after the crucifixion. Otherwise, he would not have done what he did. And because he did, he was able to rise to a transcendent way of being. But he went deeper than that, and that's where I want us to go today. He trusted the idea that in order to be a resurrection, there had to be a crucifixion. There could be no resurrection without a crucifixion. In order for him to be transformed into a higher vibrational being, the old had to appear to die. And here's a spiritual paradox for us, because the resurrection principle says that nothing really dies. The caterpillar appears to die in order for the butterfly to be born, but the caterpillar really doesn't die. It does, however, get reduced to a pile of goo, a big blob of DNA inside the cocoon, and then it's transformed into the beauty of a butterfly. And in order for us to be transformed into higher vibrational beings who are beneficial presences here on earth, the old has to seem to die away. And the resurrection principle tells us that nothing really dies, but it is reconstituted, if you will. Most of us have gone through or may be going through crucifixions or deaths of sorts. And I ask you this morning to think deeply and honestly, do you trust the resurrection principle at work in them? Or are you afraid? Jesus, the master teacher, the way shower, said 4 times in the Bible, be ye not afraid. Now it's interesting that 3 of the 4 times he said this, he said it to his disciples, which all metaphysical Bible interpretations suggest represent the facilities of our minds. All of the different aspects of our mind, the committee, all those voices in your mind arguing back and forth, telling you what to do. Now, here's something interesting to note about the construction of the Greek language, which is the first translation of the New Testament from Aramaic. There's a part of the speech in the Greek language called the present imperative, which has a particular significance and which does not exist in the English language. When a commandment was given in the present imperative, it was meant to be a commandment that said to do this thing I am commanding now and do it as a continuous and steady practice in the future. We don't get that from our language. For example, if someone says to you, be still, does that mean just right now or as a continuous and steady practice in the future? We can't tell. But when something in Greek was constructed in the present imperative, they knew what it meant. It meant to do this thing now and keep doing it as a steady and continuous practice in the future. Jesus said to forgive. He meant to forgive now and as a steady and continuous practice in the future. Another important point about the present imperative tense is when it is said in the negative, in other words, be ye not afraid. There's an additional meaning. It means to stop what you're doing now, right? Don't do it now, and don't do it in the future. So specifically, Jesus said 4 times, 3 to us, stop being afraid like you have been. Don't be afraid now, and don't be afraid as a steady and continuous practice in the future. And the reason he could say this is because he knew, just like he knew that the flowers and the trees, he intrinsically knew that and trusted in the resurrection principle. The rose spoke softly in my ear. I live and know and have no fear. You've asked my secret, I'll confide. God with me lives deep inside. That's trust in the resurrection principle. And when we trust in this principle, then there is transformation. There is a transformation in us, and there's a transformation in our lives. And it goes beyond that too, because the ripple effect, when we transform our lives, it touches every life that is out there. I believe in being very specific and concrete. So here are some very specific examples of what trusting the resurrection principle in your life could look like. Trusting it means knowing that if a job ends, it means that there is a better one waiting for you. Trusting it means that you know if an illness strikes, there is a newness and a rebirthing yearning to take place in you. Trusting it means that you know if a loved one dies, there is still great love available to you. Trusting it means that when you die, notice I didn't say if you die, when you die, you know that your life still flows on with the currents of eternity. And that's a quote directly from Ernest Holmes. I love that. Your life still flows on with the currents of eternity. Where do you fit on the trust versus fear scale? Remember, Marianne Williamson, we either come from fear or we come from love. When we come from love, we come from trust. Many of us get to practice this trusting the resurrection principle firsthand. Charlou, our beautiful, wonderful pianist, she lost her job a few weeks ago, but felt relief, as the lady told her she would, because she knows that there's a better job, a better fit for her talents, and it is all unfolding, and we can all know that for her. We can trust that principle, and it's wonderful. My dad, my daughter's papa, he's 87. He's having some health challenges. He's home from the hospital now, and these challenges need to be met with how life is changing for him and what my role is in that and how things are unfolding. And it's about trusting the process and knowing that it's all unfolding for the highest and best. Whatever we can do to make it an easier process. There's a wonderful story about the 6th President of the United States, who was, Rich?
Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams, John Quincy Adams.
Thank you. All right, so John Quincy Adams, when he was 80 years old, he was shuffling along outside his home one day. Oh, and let me say that Leslie Scatcherd used to teach a song of all the presidents, and every kid knew every one of them because they could sing it in song form, and she's the one doing our drama queen, so she's pretty wonderful. But when John Quincy Adams was 80 years old, he was shuffling along outside of his home one day. He encountered a neighbor who greeted him with the question, "And how is Mr. John Quincy Adams this morning?" The old man replied, "John Quincy Adams himself is very well, thank you. But the home he lives in is sadly dilapidated. It is tottering on its foundations. The walls are badly shaken. The roof is worn. The building trembles and shivers with every wind, and I'm afraid John Quincy Adams will have to move out of it, move on, and change residences before long. But he himself is very well. Thank you. Now there's a belief in the resurrection principle. And because of the resurrection principle, we can trust that whatever we are experiencing, we are very well. Thank you very much. Because God with me lives deep inside. And that out of whatever is going on, there is a rebirthing waiting to take place, a transformation ready to occur, even a transcendence, an ascension. And so, I ask you this morning, do you trust in the resurrection principle? You may say yes, but when is this tomb of darkness going to be over? I've said that actually recently. Jesus was 3 days in the tomb, in the darkness. But time is symbolic. Remember, there's no time in the mind of God. Mary Morrissey suggested an idea. She asked, what happened Saturday night in the tomb? A breaking down of the old, like the caterpillar, turning into a blob of DNA so that the new, the transformed, the ascended could arise? If you are in a tomb of darkness, be assured that everything is happening in divine order. Can you believe that? Can you trust that? Can you know that? Even though the effects, what you see out there is not what you'd like to see, can you know, can you trust that it is all in divine order? Let yourself off the hook. That means that you are not to expect your human self to at all times understand what it is that is happening. Do not expect to be perfect. How many of us, really strive for that? Do not expect to always avoid tough moments, but do trust the process. Trust the Easter experience. Surrender yourself to your higher or inner self and know that resurrection is assured. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe wrote, "To be a traveler on this earth, you must know how to die and come to life again." This resurrection principle is not some faraway concept, some theoretical idea. It is living and breathing and having its way with you each and every day, each moment. Trust that, and you, like Jesus, will rise to a transcendent way of being. And as you are lifted up, others will be lifted as well, because we know we're not alone in this. When we succeed, it brings the consciousness, the evolution of all up. I'd like to close with a poem written by a fellow minister, and she just wrote this a couple weeks ago, and I was just so touched. It's called Rise Up. You are a child of God, a perfect, magnificent expression of the living one, created from life and love as life and love. The kingdom of heaven is yours by divine inheritance. There is no key required, nor any doors to walk through to experience your bountiful birthright blessings of the unlimited supply of all good. Love flows patiently, waits your recognition of your true divine nature. The upward spiral of life is posed and ever ready to magnify and multiply your good as you see it, name it, claim it, are receptive to it, be it and bring it, it shall be. Die to the small limiting beliefs that you have held about who you are that have kept you imprisoned by the confines of your little mind. Let go of the negativity and your subjectivity about what has been, what is, and what shall be. You are the one that sets yourself free. Redefine your mental, emotional, and energetic frequencies to realign with your spiritual magnificence as the truth with a capital T. And you shall redesign your life from the inside out and experience the fulfillment of your heart's desires and greatest yet to be. Don't you know, beloved one, that you were created out of pure potentiality and that you are infinite possibility? That which ordered the cosmos, sculpted the mountains, ebbs and flows, the ocean, grows the oak tree from the acorn, is that which breathes you and is you, as you, and all around you. It is time to move out of the womb, That has become a tomb that has held you hostage in your small sense of yourself. It is time to let go of the edge and step out of your comfort zone. And while you move through your fear and step into the vast unknown, trust and know that the creative intelligence and the certainty principle provides everything necessary and required to bring you into form all that you desire to see and to be. It is time for you to remember and know more fully and clearly who you are and whose you are. Oh, it's not too late. Rise up, my brothers and sisters. Rise up. Step boldly and bodaciously into and as your good God self through your resurrected consciousness. Rise up and expect the great. And this is Willa Barbara Johnson. And so it is.